Hello again, my dears. We're already on lesson 70. I don't know how this has happened, but here goes. My salvation comes from me. And then it reminds us that all temptation is nothing more than a refusal to accept this idea. We believe that our happiness and our feeling loved and safe comes from everywhere and everyone except us. And we also think guilt resides every place except with us. We don't see either guilt or salvation, in other words, coming back to our own place of being beloved, in our own mind and nowhere else. And then it asks us to see guilt is an invention in your mind. And because guilt is an invention in your mind, salvation, or the way to let go of that guilt, has to be in the same place. And then the seeming cost of this is to finally realize that nothing outside of you can save you. Nothing outside of you can give you peace. Nothing outside of you can make you feel loved and safe. But it also means, and this is the great part, nothing can hurt you, nothing can disturb you, nothing can upset you, nothing can get in your way, because today's idea puts you in charge of your universe, where you belong because of what you are, of the sovereign, powerful expression of the loving God that you are. Now, this is not a role that can be partially accepted. Either I am totally responsible for what happens in my life or not. There are no halfway measures here. And it suggests that we might not be clear about why the guilt in our minds, and everybody knows there's guilt there, we just thought it was somebody else's fault, entails this realization that salvation is there as well, because there's no point in having a remedy if you don't have it where the illness is. It would make no sense if you have the flu and the remedy for it, if you're believing in taking pills to fix such things, is somewhere on the other side of the room. It's like you've got to bring whatever is the curative property to whatever it is that needs to be cured. And it says, God's intention was that the healing and the sickness be brought together, and our purpose was to make sure that didn't happen. Can you believe how crazy we actually are? So today we're going to practice realizing that God's will for our salvation, for our healing, for us to know who we are, and ours are actually the same. Love wants us to be healed and happy and at peace, and we don't really want to be sick and miserable and suffering. I mean, how crazy is that? So in accepting the idea for today, we're finally in agreement with God instead of trying to be always at war. Love doesn't want us to be sick or suffering or lacking, and we don't either. It wants us to be healed, and so do we. So now it's asking us for 2 longer practice periods just because, don't you think 2 small practice periods of 10 or 15 minutes each is a good idea if I'm talking about the salvation of the world? This is not just cleaning up the backyard. Now, you can take them whenever you want, but this is the process that's going to go on for a while. Begin these practice periods by repeating the idea for the day, my salvation comes from me. My decision, my focus, my desire, my ideas about what's going to work and what isn't. In other words, my salvation, my finding my way home is my decision, and it doesn't come from anywhere else, and nobody else gets to impact my decision. Then devote a few minutes with your eyes closed, to reviewing all these places we've looked for salvation. Salvation, let's just call that finally knowing beyond the shadow of a doubt that you're loving, that you're lovable, and all is well. So we've looked to other people to try to give us value. We've looked to our possessions to try to make us important. We've looked to all sorts of various situations and events to allow us to feel powerful in our self-concepts, to make us okay in all sorts of ways. So we have looked everywhere. And have you noticed that that has not worked out well? We have not found that experience of being beloved and safe and precious and held and embraced through any of these places that we've looked. It's really important to see how our plans have failed. So it says, okay, recognizing that they're failed, say this: my salvation cannot come from any of these things. None of these reflections, after all, the world is a reflection of my thought, so none of these reflections of my thought can supply anything. Have you ever known a reflection in a mirror to supply you with anything? No mirrors in my house have ever done that. So my salvation, my feeling beloved and safe and whole, comes from me and only from me, because it's a function of where I put my attention and what I honestly, in my heart of hearts, desire. So now it says we're going to try to reach this light again. You can't find it in the clouds. The clouds are all those people, possessions, situations, self-concepts, and so on, where we've been looking for it and haven't found it. You've got to go through the clouds, and that means just acknowledge, okay, yes, these clouds are here, but I'm not going to be mesmerized by them. I'm not going to be hypnotized by them. I'm going to realize that, yes, I'm living in the world of form, but I'm not expecting form to provide anything of substance. I'm going to bring substance into my world, but I'm not going to expect the world to provide it to me, just the other way around. Now, since all these illusions of how you're going to be safe and happy have failed you, surely you don't want to keep cycling around in the clouds that have failed you. So stop circling around in the clouds that have failed you and go straight right on through them to the light. However it feels good to go through this, and then it suggests, as the author of the course speaking to us, and you can personify that if you want to, or it can remain an idea, however it helps you, is think of something powerful and loving and on your side and 100% devoted to your welfare, holding you by the hand and leading you through these clouds. And it says, and I assure you, this is no fantasy. So for your short, frequent periods, just realize nothing can hamper you as you decide to move through your own thoughts. Only your decision not to do this will get in the way. You are free from any external interference. There is no interference. It's just what you decide is important is what's important to you and where you will put your attention. So, being in charge of the salvation of the world, oh my, say to yourself, my salvation comes from me, and nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me, my decisions, my attention, what I decide is important is the world's salvation and my own. These lessons will continue to get more and more and more wonderful as we pass through it, which is great. We're only on lesson 70. We have the rest of the 365 to go. Happy practicing today. Goodbye for now.